So a little while ago, my buddy Casey asked if I could help him with a reception desk for his new business, which is a float studio, sensory deprivation. Casey's an expert in powerlifting and health and wellness and all kinds of stuff. So of course I said I would help him out, but I told him I wanted to have complete creative control. When he said no, I went ahead and did it anyway. And I think you guys are really gonna like how this one turned out. And then we'll get to see what he thinks when we deliver it at the end. And he has absolutely no clue. So let's get into this build.
First thing we wanna do on this project is get the epoxy mold ready so we can get the epoxy poured and do all the fancy steps for that, because that takes the longest amount of time. So the first thing we need to do is make a mold for the epoxy, and then we can get that ready to pour. Tape time, tape time. So now that we've got the sides attached to the square, since we're making it a circle, we're going to go ahead and add these little corner pieces just to use less material. There's no sense wasting the extra couple of liters that it would probably turn into by filling these corners just to throw it away. So as you can see, I got this circle roughed out, figured out exactly how long these need to go, and we're going to make 3 more of those and get this thing sealed up.
Real quick, since this project is focusing on a type of business that promotes health and wellness, I wanted to take a minute to tell you guys about how I am taking control of my health recently with the help from Ritual Essentials for Men, the obsessively researched multivitamin that's formulated to help fill nutritional gaps in men's diets. So most of us think that exercise is the gateway to a healthy life, and that's it. That all you gotta do is exercise, and then you're gonna be healthy. Well, in reality, it's just part of the equation. Most of us that are in the shop or are as active as us makers can be, running around building stuff, think that we are doing okay when it comes to our health, when in reality, the truth is most of us are dropping the ball. We aren't getting enough nutrients, especially vitamin E and vitamin D. Just think about it for a second. If you're in the shop all day or in your office, you're not outside getting any sunlight, and that's where the vitamin D comes from. And well, that's just one part of the equation. So I personally started taking Ritual a few months ago, and I've had some amazing results as I am constantly trying to improve my life as a whole. Ritual has been super easy. They have a subscription model, shows up to my door. I take 2 pills in the morning. It's phenomenal. It actually tastes pretty good too, with a minty, fresh taste instead of the normal, kind of vitamins that taste like which I'm not a fan of. After playing football for most of my life too, I realized that it is not as easy to take care of myself, considering it's not my full-time job anymore. So doing the small things like taking a multivitamin every day are super important. And that's why I wanted to talk to you guys about it, because I know a lot of you are probably in the same situation as myself, where you put your work and family before your own health, which just isn't a good equation. We want to live forever, or at least close to it, and we want to be able to build for decades. So we got to take care of ourselves. So to do so, Ritual is, as awesome as they are, providing you guys and myself with an amazing opportunity to save 10% on your first 3 months using the link down below, which is ritual.com/John Malecki. You could sign up, get yourself some amazing vitamins. I'm loving them. I know you guys will too. And let's get back to taking care of ourselves so we can continue to build for a long, long time. Once again, head on to ritual.com/John Malecki, save 10% on your first 3 months, and get to crushing your health and wellness. Now, let's get back to crushing this project. All right, so we're going to pour some resin, and we need to be in a temperature controlled environment because we have learned poorly that things explode and blow up. We're giving some new epoxy a shot. This is from rivertableepoxy.com. It's a 2-inch deep pour. The 4-gallon kit that we have is right under what we need for this. Not a huge pour, but still want to use some deep pour stuff. So we got to get to mixing, to tinting, to pouring, to sitting. Let's go. All right, and now we pour. I hope whatever jackwagons made this mold doesn't leak. Ooh, green, like a leprechaun.
stone.
Is that me gold?
What the hell are you?
I'm a leprechaun, me dear.
So now that we got the epoxy poured, that can dry for a few days and be off to the side. The boys got the countertop parts for the secondary counter started. Now we need to joint those, plane those, smooth them out, caress them slightly, and get those glued up into a tabletop. And those are like the two big glue ups for this project, and they'll be out of the way on day one. Let's go. So since we're literally waiting on the things to dry that need to dry, we're gonna cut all of the octagons that are gonna go, they're octagons, no, they're hexagons. We're gonna cut all the hexagons that go on the front, and we're gonna use Miss Piggy to do so.
All right, now that it's out of clamps, we're gonna go ahead and track saw both sides, get this sucker cut down to size, and then we'll save you the pain of watching us sand this for 3 hours. Tip time. All right, so the countertop, before we get it all sanded, we noticed that there's one little, it's a check, I think, or is it a shake? The wood is no longer connected, as you can see in this region. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna use this speed set glue, and I'll show you guys a little tip here on how to fill a crack with glue. So we're gonna go ahead and we've got a clamp, a bottle of glue, and a shop vac. Put a bunch of glue in there, and then we're gonna take our shop vac, turn it on, and you put it on the bottom of the crack, and it pulls that glue down into the crack. So that suction pulls that glue down in there, and we can go ahead and do that a couple of times even. Really make sure the glue gets in there. Then you go ahead and take your clamp. We're gonna clamp it from the bottom so we can work on this while this dries. Down on the other end. Bam, oh, she's leaking on me. And there you go. That's a great way to get glue down into a crack so that you make sure you get full coverage on that. Way stronger, way sturdier than just doing a little bit on the top. You could also do that with epoxy or any other kind of adhesive that you're gonna use.
So the boys are crushing getting the top for the inside cabinet of this reception desk prepped. And that means the next thing we need to do is actually build the cabinet. I was holding off on that part because we're dictating it by how much material we had there. We're close. So now let's break down some of this good old fashioned plywood. So now that we've got all the pieces cut, what we're gonna do is start assembling this box. It's essentially just a big box that's gonna sit on top of a smaller box, and then we'll put those boxes together, and then that box will be a box that's used for boxing things. But we want it to look neat. So you bust out our fancy spacer here. Oh, that's fancy. Throw it back right there. Now I can lock this in and use it again on the next one. All right, so to class this up, because we are classy AF, trying to cut back on the cursing. We are going to hardwood edge band all the parts before we put them together, and we're gonna use this new fast setting glue from Titebond in order to make sure it doesn't take all day. So just running a bead down here. Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah, come on. Yes, didn't even miss. And then we will come back with some tape for clamps, and we'll flush it all up with palm router once it's dry. All right, so we've got everything edge banded up and it's looking quite crispy. The reason we did it before, I just find it much easier to edge band before you put the cabinet together for hardwood edge banding, and I think a lot of people would agree. So now we're gonna assemble a carcass. So now we are moving on to the raised platform for this reception desk. It's gonna sit about 10, 12 inches taller than the base cabinet. That. Why, you might ask? For the convenience. Encouragement. Boom. That has nothing to do with this build. Nothing to do with this. Let's screw some stuff together. That'll do, pig. We're gonna pin this down instead of screw it because it'd be faster. So I'm gonna run a bead.
So you want me to get a nail gun?
No, 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 no. I want you to film me doing this. You know what time it is? Bump mode. Oh, missed. No more bumping. But John, I don't like that cold brew coffee. Think I liked the taste of beer the first time I drank it?
Yes.
No!
Day 3, we've got the carcass of the cabinet assembled. We got that dry fitted last night before we went home. The next thing that Jordan and I are gonna work on is getting these drawers. We ripped down those strips yesterday with John, and now we're gonna go ahead and break those down into all the different little pieces. There's a bunch of short ones, a bunch of long ones, and some pocket holes, and we'll screw all that together. And I think at the end of the day, we'll have 4 drawers. I think we've reached maximum efficiency here. I've got Jordan back there working on edge banding. John's running the CNC for the little hexagon parts. I'm gluing up drawer faces. I don't know if you can hear any of this. There's a lot going on, but we are making moves. Jordan went ahead and got these all screwed together. Now that we've got them in one piece, we can go ahead and cut the bottom panels for them. We want to make sure that these were together so we knew what size to make them. So we're going to go ahead and cut out some 1/4 inch plywood on the table saw, put the bottoms in these, and then get these suckers mounted.
All right, so the boys are absolutely crushing that cabinet build. I've been doing some CNC work, and what I've gotten done is the rest of our hexagons are all cut. We're gonna pre-finish the edges. That way I'm not worrying about getting in between them as I put them onto the cabinet, and I don't get any paint drips. For that, I'm using this ridiculously awesome airless sprayer. That's what it's called, right? It's a paint sprayer specifically for paint. It's the Graco Ultra 395 PC. You've seen me spray in my house with it and trimming stuff. They just released this new mini extension for it, and we're just hitting the edges. Going beautifully, and I'm loving this tiny gun and the control. We may actually have to paint my house with this thing. Sweet. These are specifically for paint, a little different than an HVLP. It's not actually putting air into the what you're spraying like an HVLP. That pushes air in and I think it atomizes. There's some different science behind the two, but this one just sucks it out of the can. Can. Perfect. Let's get them done. So, after sitting here for 3 days, my very pricey slab that I purchased for this project decided to cup in the opposite direction of anything I could possibly continue to use. So now we're gonna have to get pretty squirrely to make this work. I don't know what we're gonna do. I'm gonna have to think on this for a minute or two or an hour. This is my potato chip. Oh, so I think this could be the squirreliest thing we've ever done. What we're gonna do is I'm gonna rip a couple kerfs on the back side of this here. And then we're gonna hope it allows me to open this thing up. We are then going to build a mini torsion box and fasten it to the torsion box. After that, we'll put it on the CNC to flatten that side. Then we're gonna cut, semi-dimension our parts and then reassess and see if it's any flatter or more capable of being used. Our biggest issue here is I wanted to waterfall it this way, so this part hangs down. In order to make a nice miter, you have to have perfectly flat wood. This sure as hell is not perfectly flat. So now I just got to start plunging into this ridiculously expensive slab and praying for the best. Ain't nothing to it except to do it, right, Sam? Right. Let's get her done. Move it. You remove your hand from that area, please. Thank you. Did that just eliminate all my squirrely ass ideas? All right, we're back to square one. So as we like to do around here, before we got too squirrely, we tried something else. And we ended up clamping it down to the table, and it's a little bit more manageable. So we're gonna try to do this on the CNC and start flattening, and then go from there. I'm getting squirrely. We're getting square. Oh, I'm terrified. Anyone else scared? Slight pivot. We took probably an inch and an eighth at least off of both sides of the slab to get it anywhere close to being flat. And it's sad, but sometimes that's what happens. So instead of doing a mitered waterfall, we're gonna kind of do a rabbited waterfall. I think I'm gonna take this part here, rabbit it in the back of here. I'll leave a shelf in this piece of the wood. What that'll do is then I'll still have a continuous flow vertically. And because this is a very figured piece of wood, the top doesn't actually look like end grain or edge grain. So it should still look pretty sharp. It'll have just a quarter inch rabbet into it. And then what we'll be able to do is mate these two together to kind of give us a square surface to put it on there. The miter, unless I screwed this thing to a box, like we're getting really, we're just making it way too hard on ourselves. And we're going for a look here. Nobody will notice except for me and Sam. And every time we see it, we'll be upset with one another that we couldn't figure it out. But sometimes you just gotta make lemonade. And we all love lemonade. Sometimes spiked. So let's get to it. So now that we've got a concept of how I want to lay this sucker out, we are going to fill these voids with all of your favorite black epoxy. So we're gonna prep both pieces before we put it together. And so the next thing is we're gonna clean up these edges, little brush sander, little drill with a wire wheel, kind of throwback, but definitely wanna mask up and make sure I'm taking care of my very sensitive childish lungs. So with that, let's get dusty. All right, so while the other epoxy dries, it's time to cut into this epoxy so we can put more epoxy into it. I just want to say that I'm terrified. I'm about to cut into a piece of epoxy that I basically can't replace unless we pour it again and do it again, and then we'll be a week behind. So let's do it. So the logo's pretty much where we want it. So we are going to go ahead and fill it up with resin. We poured it pretty thick, so the hope is if I screwed it up, plausible, always, never forget, is that I can surface this thing and try it again. So we'll see. Let this epoxy sit overnight. Hopefully cures pretty good because it's only about an 1/8 inch coat. No bubbles, we'll be good to go. Another pivot. Geometry all day. I want this top, you know, sometimes you gotta roll with the punches. You get punched in the face, but you punch back. So I want to be able to put a domino in here. I was gonna go with the shoulder, but then there's no way of reinforcing that joint because I can't put a screw in the front because it doesn't look as good. So in order to have a domino, I have to keep this at full thickness, and I can still get a 15mm plunge to use a 50mm domino or a 30mm domino or whatever. So we're gonna line those up, cut this, and get this thing glued up. It should help it square too, because it's pulling it to reference in itself, and we're getting much closer. Basically, just make a bunch of marks. This is where I was talking about the squirrels. It'd be easier to align with it kind of down on this table. Next on the agenda, the CNC jumped on us and popped this whole thing off of the table because my hold down game ain't too strong quite yet. So in order to finish it, we're gonna cut it on the bandsaw, and then I cut a round template to template it, and then we're gonna sand this thing and it will get ready for some lacquer. So circle time. So we're making the corners nice. And we're wrapping the one side. This thing goes against the wall. So we're gonna wrap this side. I'm just cutting 45-degree angles on these things and then CA gluing them together. Once they're pinned in, they'll be nice and strong. So we're basically just hitting these with a little glue. This is quick and thick. And then pinning them in with some spacers. And then I'm gonna get crazy with a little design touch here because I'm feeling wild. 23 gauge brad nail, if you were curious, because I'm gonna get that question. So now we just gotta do 1 million of them. Let us spray. It's the debut. Welcome to being an influencer, a micro-influencer.
Oh, I love that. That's perfect.
Now come see the front.
I know you should look front. Dude, that's sick.
You like how that logo turned out?
Yeah, that's awesome.
So Casey was doubting my vision when I showed him a very rudimentary sketch, potentially while we were consuming a little bit of adult beverages.
I was under the influence of multiple things.
He was like, what the hell is this?
No, what I didn't see was like the The back background, right? Like everything, it looked almost like it was,
One thing.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think when you see the hexagons make no sense till you go in the tank.
But that's the thing, like we want repeat customers, so like that fits.
I think it goes good with the flow. That's gonna be a wrap on this one. I really hope you guys like this project. We do not do a ton of things like this, but when we do, we try to hit a home run. If you think we hit a home run, leave a comment down below. If you wanna see another project we think we hit a home run on, we got that queued up for you right here. And if you wanna support the channel, snag up some merch. Got that link down below. See you guys in the next one.